And Happy New Year. We made it to the new year, guys. Congratulations to us. It is January 2nd, 2024, and a brand new year of What Do You Know About Sports? Fellas, how was New Year's Eve?
Well, very good. Quiet. Didn't do anything. Stayed home. Had dinner earlier in the evening, and then stayed home a little bit. Watched some hockey.
Yeah, much the same here. Watched some a little bit of football, a little bit of hockey, and once again this year I didn't make it to New Year's.
Gary, you said you went to bed at 10 o'clock.
It was a solid 10 to 10:15. I was out.
I watched the ball drop in New York there. I always do that, but yeah, we're sometime after midnight. We did get ourselves to bed, but I had a few people call, so it was kind of cool. Yeah.
Hey Gary, how's that resolution coming to treat me a little bit better this year?
I'm going to work on that, and I'm sure that I'll be able to keep that one.
There's a whole bunch of people making that resolution. I hear, Randy. They're trying to treat you nicer. I don't know what it's all about.
Well, it's never worked out in the past. So.
Nice interview you had too on the radio there. That was wonderful. They sort of liked you there. You didn't mention much about us too, but it was all about. That's okay. Don't worry about it. It's all about you.
I was going to mention that at the end of the show, but I'll do it right now just because it's a good time. So on December 29th, Brock Greenhalgh of 570 Radio, I think it's called Kitchener City News now, had me on 570 in Kitchener and just talked about our show a little bit and the podcast and how we got it going. And that was real nice of him. Brock, if you were watching or listening, thank you very much for having me on to give us a little bit of publicity. That's always appreciated. Hey, listen, let's talk about some topics. All kinds of things happening here this morning, actually. But we'll start by talking about the Orange Bowl embarrassment that was on the weekend. And it saw about a dozen Florida State football players opt out of the Orange Bowl game against Georgia for various reasons. And it resulted in just an embarrassment of a game where Georgia beat Florida State 63-3. And Gary, who's to blame for a train wreck like that, and how can it be prevented in the future?
Well, I don't know. In terms of blame, that's tough to pinpoint it. Most of the reasons these kids sit out, my understanding, is that they want to protect their draft status. That they don't want to risk getting injured, and with the draft coming up, this portal system where kids are kind of like free agents and can move around at the end of the season. Perhaps some of them as well. Again, with injury being the main concern, not wanting to get hurt and affect any opportunity they might have to go somewhere else next year. So it's understandable, I guess, to that degree, but it's primarily in games that aren't the playoff games. They aren't the big games. You're not going to see, you wouldn't see any of the four teams playing yesterday. There was nobody sitting out, those games. So I think it comes down to the system, if anything. I think the last I saw, there were 42 bowl games that they play on the schedule. They're going to fix it a little bit, I think, next year, going to a 12-team playoff. But all of those games, regardless, will be important football games. And so I don't think you'll see that, kids opting out during that tournament. I think the more games they have that are more important, it'll take care of it to a certain degree. these bowl games have always been an opportunity for schools to go in, and they get paid pretty well to come and play. But as sponsors leave, I think that the money involved is going to go down. There have been teams in the past that have turned down bids to go to some of these games because the cost of bringing their football team, 100 players and staff and whatever, the band, the cheerleaders, to go to a spot for a week or 10 days or whatever it is, was costing more money than what it was they were going to receive to play in the actual game. And so I can see that as a deterrent going forward. But in my view, there's just way too many games. Yeah. Way too many games, and so we'll see. There's got to be a change.
Yeah. Imagine how angry you are if you're a sponsor, though, of that Orange Bowl game, and some of your sponsorship money, I'm assuming, is going to Florida State, and Florida State just turned that game into an embarrassment with how they reacted. So that's got to turn off sponsors, in my opinion. And I just don't understand how these players, so many of the Florida State players could opt out, again, for various reasons. I understand that, but especially the seniors who have been with these teammates for 4 years, and you practice with them, you live with them, it's your whole life for 4 years. You get into a big game. Sure, you're upset because you're not one of the Final Four, but it's still a big game against a really good team, and you just decide you don't want to play. I don't know how you can look yourself in the mirror after making a decision like that, given how much blood, sweat, and tears you've put into your teammates for 4 years.
I don't know if it's totally their decision. I think they have a lot of people that are their backers. They've got their agents. They've got all the people involved in regards to where they're going to be going forward with. And the way this whole thing is set up, it's about money in the first place. So some of these players nowadays are just like, hey, listen, I got to look after my money, and you guys look after your money, because that's what they all think about is the bottom dollar, I believe, at the end of the day. Sorry, Gary, go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. It's financially driven. There's no question, and a lot of money for these top kids. But you mentioned sponsorship too, and how it affects them. The other thing is that the sponsors rely on is viewership, and how many people left at halftime or midway through the second quarter, watching that Orange Bowl. Viewership would have been absolutely horrible, I'm sure. And so, like I said, it just comes down to there's too many games that are not meaningful. And until that changes, this is what you're going to get, I guess.
Well, I was watching that game there, Gary, and as a casual fan and seeing that Orange Bowl, it kind of turns you off when you see a game like that. I think the reason you keep watching is like people driving by and want to look at a car crash. It's just the carnage of that football game was getting to the point where it was kind of entertaining watching them get smoked. I don't know. It was, like I said, I don't watch a lot of the college football, and I get that game really turned me off. I'll be very honest. It was kind of like what a debacle.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, there were no car wrecks last night in those two semifinal games. Basically, just two excellent games. I mean, the one went to overtime with Michigan beating Alabama, and then the Texas-Washington game went down to the final second as well. What did you? I know you watched both of those, Gary. What did you think?
Oh, they were outstanding in terms of entertainment. The Michigan game, lots of mistakes, lots of errors, particularly special teams for Michigan. But that's what you're going to get sometimes. 100,000 people, 18 to 22-year-old kids playing for a spot in the national championships. There's going to be physical errors, but they're, you know, they were exciting. And again, if you're not coaching in it and you're just a fan and you're watching it, it was a tremendous game to watch, and the ending was, you know, as good as you're going to get, unless you're an Alabama fan. I don't really know any of those. But it was, and then the game last night. Heck, that Washington quarterback, he's special. He's got a cannon, and it'll be really interesting to see, you know, how they match up next week.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to say one thing. I'm still proudly wearing my Alabama shirt today. I'm not a fair weather fan who's going to bail on this team. But you know, it was a great game. I was obviously disappointed. This entire household that I live was very disappointed as the game ended. But, you know, great game, and good luck to Michigan. Although I will say this, I got to say this. I know a lot of Michigan fans, especially living down here in the extreme southwest of the province. And some of the online stuff I saw last night was just getting a little ridiculous with how, again, we talk about online trolls, but man alive, like that was a great game. And some Michigan fans, and maybe Alabama fans would be the same, but some Michigan fans are just ruthless and brutal in some of their assessments of, you know, how good their team was and how bad Alabama was. And all I can say is we've won 6 national championships since 2009. Michigan has won 1 since 1949, and they had to share that with Nebraska.
Oh, those terrible Michigan fans! I can't believe it. They just made you feel so bad.
They made me feel awful. Roll Tide.
Terrible fans, unbelievable.
Listen, we got to move on. We've got lots of hockey to talk about here, and as we're recording this show here this morning on a Tuesday morning, Canada has just been bumped out of the World Junior Hockey Championship in a quarterfinal loss to the Czech Republic. And boy, Lance, you followed this tournament pretty closely here in the last week or so. What are your thoughts as Canada makes a much earlier than expected exit from this tournament?
Yeah, it was kind of hard to watch, because I mean, I find, you know, when I'm limited to when I get to cheering when it comes to hockey, because basically you're always on the neutral side, but I always had an opportunity to cheer for Team Canada. And these boys played hard. They played, you know, the game today, they just couldn't find a way to put a puck in the net against this goaltender it was heartbreaking to watch it. And the one goal, there was an early goal in the game that was kind of, their goaltender Russo played so great all, you know, for every game he played, every minute for the Team Canada. But the first goal was something I think he might have gotten, you know, I just took him by surprise. But they came back to tie it up 2-2, and then they lost 3-2 with 11 seconds to go. But this team had some, you know, just always seemed to have some problems with scoring throughout the tournament. A lot of it to do with a lot of players trying to, you know, make, you know, the pretty passes and pretty plays and not shooting enough. And then they kind of started doing more shooting in this game. But, you know, overall, you know, you have, you know, these kids put their heart into it. They put their soul into it. And it was kind of disappointing to watch them lose this game today.
It's certainly one of my favorite hockey events every year. And you're right, man. The kids, that they play their hearts out, not just the Canadian kids. And I think if we go back in time, that there was a time that we'd win these things because we probably did compete harder. But it's not like that anymore. Every team there, every kid there is playing their hearts out, and we're not appreciably better than everyone else. There's, you know, that's no longer the case. These teams are really equal in terms of ability. Even our Germany game the other day, that's a heck of a hockey game for 40 minutes. So it always hurts when we lose. But we know that our kids gave it all they had, and I just really enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about with the World Juniors, we had dominated for years. We had so much in regards to that tournament. And Russia was probably one of the biggest teams that would challenge Canada every year at that tournament. But I think the way hockey has gone and grown throughout, out of Europe, a lot of those players play that are in the, like before, Canada was pretty well, it was Canadian playing in different junior leagues and different colleges around the country. And now you have them coming from Europe to play college at Boston College and different places where they're actually overplaying in junior leagues here now. So it's kind of a more competitive atmosphere there, and there's a lot more knowledge to how they play their games and their strategies now. In this tournament, I was watching a lot of the different structures they have, and a lot of the coaches that come into that World Junior now are ex-players that played in the National Hockey League on all teams, not just Canada. But I mean, I think there's a lot more in regards to their development in countries, and that I think that we in Canada need to get our head around and start to be different how we develop players. You take Finland with what Finland has, I believe, 6 million people, and in their rep system or their development system, they have 600,000 players in that system out of 6 million people in Finland. And Finland right now is going on to the semifinals. They won their game in overtime against, I forget who they played against. But the thing is that we in Canada, with 37 million people, we have a rep system of about 250,000 players throughout our system. We really narrow it down way too quickly. Our rep system, I think, has to be looked at differently for how we're going to bring. We lose so many kids in hockey because of the rep system, because if they're not in the rep system by 10 years old, they're pretty well delegated to house league throughout their career. And you've seen that, Randy. Yeah. You've seen that happen. And it's kind of a thing where we have to start to understand that development of players, it's not, it's become like an elite system where it doesn't matter if you're not able to play in that system, you're pretty well not going to have a chance to go farther in hockey than. And so we lose a lot of good players, I think, down the road.
Yeah, no, we've all seen that where I don't think it's just hockey, but obviously in Canada, hockey is king. And you see some really good youngsters who go in completely different directions because they got cut from a AAA team when they were 10 years old, and they didn't see a future in it anymore when, they weren't even. They were nowhere near ready to give up on hockey, but they did, and that's just sad to see. Speaking about the World Juniors here, I just want to get a point. I really hope there's not a national knee-jerk negative reaction now, like I have seen in past years, where the whole country just wrings its hands and goes, "What's wrong with hockey in Canada?" I mean, hey, it was a great game today. They lost by a goal. They could have just as easily won it if not for a good goaltender. And, there's really nothing wrong with Canadian hockey in the big picture. But please don't just go crazy here, people, and say, boy, our country sucks at hockey now because we didn't make it into the semifinals at the World Junior. It's not true.
No, the reality is we're not going to dominate anymore. Right. It's that simple. The world has caught up, and so how we do things, as you said, Lance, that's going to be important going forward. But it's just the way it is now. And by the way, for all those naysayers, we got a couple of kids. I think one's named Bedard. We got another kid there in Columbus, Fantilli. The defenseman in Buffalo. You put those three kids out there on that roster there today, and there's probably a different result too. So, everything's good with our hockey. I'm not concerned about our hockey. I'm disappointed we lost today, but Canada will always be there and always be one of the best.
Yeah. Hey, Gary, you wanted to mention this is a sort of a great time to slip this in. The PWHL, and it made its debut on New Year's Day, and we were talking about it here on the show a couple of weeks ago. What did you think of that game, New York and Toronto? I watched quite a bit of it, and I thought it was a great show.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And the result, the game result is irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. Yesterday, the women won. The women won, and they've battled for this. They wanted this and have deserved this for years and years. It's not like all of a sudden the game got good. It's been good for a long time. They were finally given this opportunity, and the game I thought was outstanding. They've allowed a little more physicality than what we've seen in world play, and they were banging around, and it was up and down, back and forth. The New York goalie, she stood on her head. I think the Leafs should take a good look at her. Actually, she was outstanding. But I just congratulations to all those that came before, and so this could happen, and so the generations of young girls right now are going to be the beneficiaries of this in the future. I thought it was a great show, and I think we've got Montreal in Ottawa tonight, and they're talking huge crowd. Huge crowd. The atmosphere yesterday in Toronto was terrific, but I'm anxious to watch that one tonight too.
Very good.
I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I'll say this is that I think that they've come a long way, and I think it's going to be. I hope it does really well, and I think that it has great opportunity to do that. And the thing that it not only does it open up for players in that league, but it's going to open up for referees, officials. They're going to have a chance to be at a part of a league at the high level. They have probably officials that they use strictly for that league, and I think that gives an opportunity for many of the female officials that I've seen coming through and have worked with myself through the minor hockey system, or now in some of them in the OHL, and that are going to have a great opportunity now to be able to work at a professional level. And that's going to be something that I'm going to watch closely, and I think I'm excited to see that too.
Yeah. On another hockey topic here, guys, the Winnipeg Jets, they're averaging less than 12,600 fans a home game this year. That's only about 80% capacity. It's about a 9% drop from last year. One, what's going on there? And two, should Winnipeg fans be concerned at all about a repeat of 1996 when the first version of the Jets left Winnipeg for Arizona? And Lance, obviously you did a lot of games in Winnipeg during your career. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if they start to build back up again as the season goes on, because the team's doing really well, which is kind of surprising that the attendance is down. Maybe the economy in Winnipeg, I'm not sure, or ability to pay for the tickets, but it's a nice building. I mean, there's other things that happen with in regards to attendance, and for people not coming to the games, they may not like there may be some kind of other underlying currents to it. I know they're great fans in Winnipeg. They used to fill the building when I was there. There was a smaller building when I went into Winnipeg when the Jets were first. Before I was there when the Jets were there, and then they left, and I wasn't there when they came back. But the thing about it is that you've got Arizona, you've got lots of other places too that kind of struggle, with their attendance and with trying to put a building in Arizona. So I think Winnipeg can hold on. I don't think it's going to be like a 1 year and out deal. If this team gets to the playoffs, it'll create some excitement as they get to the playoffs, which Winnipeg does have a pretty strong team. So we'll see how the attendance builds up as we go along, but I'm not sure what's causing it. I have no idea. It's a great, you can't blame the weather because it's not been that cold in Winnipeg as it usually is, like 40 below. I remember going in there and, you're underground pretty well with all the shopping you do, and you don't go, it gets pretty cold there. But I don't see anything. I don't know what's going on with that at all.
I'm with you, Lance. I don't understand it at all. They're a real good hockey team. They're 1 point out of top spot in their division. They got a couple of games in hand. So I don't get it. Rick Bowness has come in there and really done a good job. I don't know whether last year they had an issue with something with Wheeler. He was their captain. Bowness took it away from him right away. They've got Lowry now wearing the C, and they seem to have really gelled. And this Connors kid, who was scoring like crazy before he got hurt, he'll be back, I would think. And so I think they've got right now themselves and Vancouver are probably the two top teams up here in Canada. And so I think those people should get out there and watch them, because I think they got a good hockey team.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you see cases where a city will give up on a team because they just are so unwilling to spend money. Like in baseball this past year, the Oakland A's are a perfect example of that, where the fans were just boycotting because of how little money the A's were spending. And now they're going to Las Vegas in 2024. But that doesn't seem to be the case in Winnipeg. I mean, I know Kitchener kid like Mark Scheifele he's locked up and they're heavily invested. And so that doesn't seem to be an issue. I looked up a few reasons as to why people are saying that this could be happening. I guess the economy is one. Post-COVID, I think things have never been quite the same since COVID in Winnipeg for some reason. The first 9-10 years that team was in Winnipeg, having come back in 2011, the attendance was always good, over 15,000 every year, every game. And so since COVID, things have struggled a little bit. And then there are also some things I'm just seeing about how simply the game experience hasn't been all that great. So maybe they just need underlying issues that need to be addressed. But I just would hate to see that team pull up stakes after only about a dozen years and consider moving elsewhere again after what happened the first time.
Well, I just don't want to listen to all the places they're going to go to, because that's what people usually get into, is talking about where they're all going to go to and stuff. I think it's got to be something to do with, one, the economy. I think it's got something maybe to do with it, but maybe there's an experience of going to the arena that the people haven't enjoyed. I mean, that's all part of the process and the package, and maybe the ticket prices were too high to start off with for season tickets, and people are going, we're not paying that. That could have probably brought it back a little bit, because the economy, I think, could be a part of it. But I don't want to go through all the banter we usually get when we have a team like that, and all the places they'll start talking about them going to, like they'll go to Quebec, or they'll go to Salt Lake City or somewhere like that. Like they keep talking, they'll have all that kind of a drama of where this team's going to move to. So I hope we don't have to go through all that process.
Yeah.
Well, the league has propped up Arizona now for how many years? And just there's no way that they're going to let them go. So I would hope that if they start to struggle a little bit at the gate, that the league will take care of them until they get things turned around.
Well, I know, knowing Batman, like, he's a smart businessman, and he doesn't put teams in places unless he thinks they can be successful. And the other thing too is he doesn't like to move teams. That's not something that he wants the league to see teams moving everywhere, because I don't think it's hard to sell a league that has teams moving all over the place, right? So he's pretty smart that way, and I think that they'll find a way to keep Winnipeg until the last ability that they can't possibly make money there. Arizona makes the money still. That's why Arizona's still there. Arizona's TV market and all that, it's what it's about, is TV markets, radio, like all the marketing they can do. They're still making money with Arizona, regards to what they can market for TV, because that's where it's at. Whereas Winnipeg, their TV market's not that big. It's a little smaller, so we'll see how that works out.
Speaking of, if the Jets want to be more fan friendly, they could maybe just hire the three of us to sort of be greeters at the door.
Yeah, greeters.
So when people come in to the game, there are the three of us, being all warm and friendly and making them feel right at home.
We want that job. Bring your long underwear because you can get 40 below real quick down there in that Winnipeg, I'll tell you. Or up there in Winnipeg, wherever they are. There's some cold days there.
Yeah.
I think we got a shot at Walmart, but probably not in Winnipeg.
Yeah, probably for greeters at Walmart would be.
Yeah. And I Gary, you know me, I'd want a real healthy per diem too.
Yeah, and all you can eat.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's stick with hockey here. Another bit of a controversial thing in recent days or recent weeks here. Hockey Newfoundland has banned all their post-game handshakes at all levels of hockey in Newfoundland. So at the end of a game, how how kids will line up and shake hands. Apparently, that's not going to happen anymore. What are your thoughts on that? Good idea? Should other provinces follow suit?
I think it's a knee-jerk reaction in some ways, but when you with the Newfoundlanders, they do like to fight a little bit amongst each other. But from the ones I've run into, but anyways, they're pretty passionate about their hockey in Newfoundland. Make no mistake, they do love their game, and there's some good players that have come off the rock. But the biggest thing I'm looking at is that it comes down to the people who are the leadership of their hockey there that have to look at themselves in the mirror and say we failed. We have people shaking hands in all types of the hockey across Canada. They have little different things that they may not want them to shake hands because of the COVID and that at one time was going on. We didn't shake hands.
Right.
So shaking hands after a game, yeah, I get it. It shows respect for each other and those things. It's been a tradition, but it's not a necessary thing at the end of the day. It really isn't. I think this is, the Newfoundland's made this decision, has made it bigger to people across the hockey world because everybody's, we respect and all that stuff. That's what Canada's is kind of a thing for Canada to do that. But I just believe that I've watched the game evolve in Canada, and there's been times when, referees have said, go to the dressing room, fellas, you're not shaking hands, just because of the animosity within the game. Whether you're going to say, oh, yeah, let's all show respect to each other. You don't know what's going to happen, and then something happens in a handshake, it turns into a lot of suspensions and stuff because it's stuff that happens after the game. But I don't know that, I do know that there is leagues that don't shake hands still in other places across the country. They don't have the kids shake hands after the game. They don't need to. They don't do it in junior hockey. So I think this is being blown out of proportion personally that they're doing that on the Rock.
I hate to see it lost myself. I think it is important. I think that respect factor, as you've mentioned, I think that's important. I think it's taught at leadership level, but leadership starts at home, and I think that's where it has to begin. We've in university football, I've been involved since 1970, 54 years, and we shake hands. We've got 50 kids and 15 coaches lining up when that game's over, and we beat the heck out of each other, for 3 hours. And we go up there and we line up and we shake hands. And I have the utmost respect for those kids over there and for those coaches over on the other side. And I want to shake their hand. I want to, good job, guys. And we'll see you again. We'll see you in the playoffs. And that's usually where we do see them again. So I really believe in it, and I'd hate to see us lose it. I don't care what sport it is. I think it should be part of it.
Yeah, and hockey too. It's just such a great tradition in the playoffs when those NHL teams and junior hockey teams and the CHL all line up and shake hands. You don't see that in baseball. You don't see that in basketball. Football, you mentioned, Gary, how the university teams that you've been on, I'll do the post-game handshakes. But even in football, there's not a big lineup after a Super Bowl of teams lining up to shake hands. But hockey, it's just such a tradition that reveals sportsmanship, and that's what I love about it. I'd hate to see it. At the very least, if it's not happening after the game, Hockey Newfoundland, please, I hope you're doing the handshake thing before the game, especially with kids. I mean, that's just so important, I feel.
They do have that, Randy. There is that in some leagues around. They do the handshake before the game. That's been something that's been done in certain leagues across the country. I just in fairness to the situation in that regard, like you say that you loved watching the Stanley Cup, they shake hands. They shake hands after the series is over.
Right.
They don't shake hands after every game.
No, you're right.
They do that in junior hockey. But I do agree with Gary. There's a respect factor that we need to keep in the game. And it comes to, I think the biggest issue literally will always come. It's the kids suffer because the adults can't look after things properly. That's what's happening in Newfoundland. This is an adult thing. This isn't a kids thing. This isn't kids saying that they don't want to shake hands. Some kids might be stupid in the line or whatever, and referees have to watch the shaking of hands. It comes down to it again to do with coaches and the people who run the sport having the ability to tell coaches, teach your kids properly. And that's what it comes down to at the end of the game. Mind you, they'll blame the referees in some way, somehow, when this happens, right? So but it comes down to the fact of who the leaders are and the leadership you have in regards to how kids will look after themselves after a hockey game. And we've got some, I follow a lot of hockey. I go to a lot of games. And rarely do you ever see situations that are in that where you have to say we can't shake hands after the game, because most coaches are taking control of things better and, very well in the game of hockey at many levels of our game. So this thing in Newfoundland, I just think it's something that maybe they have some issue that they're taking care of there or something. I'm not sure. But of course, when the media comes out of Newfoundland, all of a sudden we think that it's across the country. It's not across the country. So,
on that note, guys, great conversations here today. Thanks very much. And we should just do a couple of housekeeping things here. We want to mention that if anyone would like to get a hold of us, you can email us. We have an email address, whatdoyouknowaboutsports@gmail.com. So send us a note. Give us your thoughts on the show. If you are watching this on YouTube, you can certainly leave a comment. We'd certainly appreciate that. And if you are watching on YouTube, or if you are listening on Spotify or Google Podcasts, please remember to like, subscribe, and comment to our show. And hopefully we'll have a real good 2024 here of what do you know about sports. Guys, any last comments here as we wrap up another week? New Year's resolutions, fellas?
Well, all the best to you guys for the 2024. Hope you have a great year. My New Year's resolution is I'm going to try to improve my golf game. I think that's what I'm going to try to do.
Lance, you've been trying to do that for about 40 years. How's it working out for you?
Well, it's another resolution, so obviously it's not working well.
Well, now it'll be different because it's a resolution.
Just Happy New Year to everybody, and we look forward to doing these podcasts in 2024, and we hope you all enjoy a little bit. And as Randy said, if you like them, then let us know. If you don't like them, let us know, and we'll continue to try and get better.
Absolutely. Have a great week, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Ciao.